how Israel built a massive river inside desert that changed the nation. No one believed water could ever flow through the heart of the desert, yet what Israel created in the silence of the Negev has become one of the most ambitious engineering stories on Earth. For decades, the Negev was a place where life felt impossible, a scorched land of stone, heat, and spreading emptiness. The sun pressed down with unforgiving force. Summer pushed temperatures beyond the limits of endurance. Rain arrived only briefly each year. Wells dwindled. Aquifers retreated deeper with each generation. Families survived on trucked water. Farms died where the soil cracked open. Survival meant rationing every drop. But while the desert seemed unbreakable, the Mediterranean Sea rested only a short distance away. An endless supply of water, yet locked behind a wall of salt. That impossible contrast sparked an idea so bold that even those who approved it could hardly picture its scale. Bring the sea inland, pull it through the desert, turn it into fresh water, and build a river where nature never intended one to exist. In the early 2000s, Israel launched a radical vision that demanded billions of dollars and an entire decade of national effort. This was not simply an attempt to irrigate a few farms. It was the decision to challenge a desert that had swallowed every civilization that came before. The goal was astonishing. Create a man-made river stretching hundreds of miles across land where even grass struggled to grow. Before water could flow, engineers had to tame the desert itself. The Negev is not empty ground. It moves. Winds reshape dunes overnight. Soil strength changes from one step to the next. The first task was to understand this volatile landscape in microscopic detail. High-resolution satellite surveys traced dune behavior. Ground radar revealed what lay beneath the sand. Teams camped under the scorching sun for months, drilling deep boreholes to map hidden layers of earth that no human had ever seen. Every route marker was recorded with extreme precision because a small misalignment could create a point where the desert reclaimed the project. Bulldozers then scraped down massive dunes, while other machines redistributed sand to flatten the ground. And still, that was not enough. The sand shifted too easily. Engineers discovered that the desert must first be dampened like clay before any real construction could begin. Long sprinkler lines released controlled amounts of groundwater into the dunes. Moisture bonded the grains. Heavy rollers pressed the surface until the once fluid sand hardened into a platform strong enough to carry cranes and convoys of supply trucks. With the desert anchored in place, the digging began. What followed was one of the largest excavation efforts in Israel's history. Hundreds of excavators carved open a channel wide enough to swallow a 6-lane highway. Day after day, nearly 70,000 tons of sand were hauled away. The work never stopped. Shifts rotated through the night while temperatures pushed beyond 100 degrees. The channel's depth was measured constantly. The slope had to be perfect. A tiny deviation in the floor could disrupt the flow for miles. Sand removed from the base was compacted into raised embankments. In weaker zones, engineers drilled deep piles to reinforce the ground. In other areas, cement and clay were blended into the soil to prevent any unexpected sinking. Seen from above, the construction site stretched like a metallic snake of machines, crawling across the desert in a non-stop procession. When the digging finally reached its full length, the desert confronted the project with another obstacle. Sand absorbs water instantly. If the canal was not sealed properly, the desert would drink every drop. To defeat this, the entire riverbed had to be lined. First came a fine layer of sand for leveling. Then, giant concrete slabs were poured in precise sections, each separated by joints filled with hot sealant. In unstable parts, engineers added a hidden geomembrane under the concrete, anchored like a shield to stop seepage. Along the edges, they planted rows of hardy vegetation to trap drifting sand. Slowly, the canal transformed from a carved trench into a gleaming corridor of reinforced stone ready to hold water. Yet, a canal this long could not exist on its own. It needed structures at every stage to control flow, handle floods, and carry roads and rail over the water. Dozens of bridges were built. Aqueducts crossed natural streams. Siphons allowed desert channels to slip underneath. Gates placed every few miles regulated pressure. It became a living system, not just a riverbed. After more than 15 years of construction, the moment finally came. Engineers slowly opened the control gates. Water surged forward for the first time. It was not yet the final desalinated supply, but test water released in stages. Crews followed the surge, measuring pressure and checking for leaks as it advanced. Villages watched the canal fill. When water finally reached remote dry regions, celebrations erupted. Decades of thirst were ending. A river was being born. But this was only half the story. The water coming from the sea could not be used until advanced desalination transformed it. Israel built an entire chain of filtration and purification systems that rivaled the largest in the world. Seawater first passed through massive intake screens. Settling tanks separated sand and silt. Oil residues were removed. Then the heart of the system took over. Arrays of hollow fibers filtered out microscopic particles and organisms. After that, seawater entered reverse osmosis modules. There, under immense pressure, the water was pushed through membranes with pores so tiny that only pure molecules could pass. Salt and minerals were left behind in brine channels. The water emerging from these membranes was so pure that it needed minerals restored to maintain safe taste and balance. Calcium and magnesium were added back in controlled amounts. Ultraviolet chambers disinfected it. Trace chlorine provided lasting protection during transport. Every step was watched by digital sensors that constantly sampled the liquid. Only when the water met strict standards was it released into the desert river. What followed was nothing short of transformation. Water turned barren valleys into farmland.